Welcome back. Welcome back to Unfiltered, Unspoken. And like I said, we're going to keep giving it to you over and over again, sharing life experiences. Well, today we have Katie Gilbert on today, and her testimony is going to rock and shake. She went through some traumas where she was shot in the eye, and we're going to bring her on and we're going to let her introduce herself and tell a little bit about herself. And then you know what me and Sid going to do. We're going to ask them questions back and forth. Katie, welcome to Unfiltered, Unspoken. It is an
Hello, how
honor
are
to have you.
you?
We're good.
So, a little bit about me. My name's Katie. I was born and raised in Belmar, New Jersey. I currently live in upstate New York right now. After high school in Jersey, I joined the United States Navy and did a little over 4 years, stationed in Italy on a ship, which was amazing. I am a widow. I had lost my husband at the age of 27 due to complications from being a quadriplegic. And we have a daughter, Serena, who is 16, and my son Angelo and I is from my attacker. Easier words to say. He is 8. He is a bundle of joy, and both my kids are just like me. April 7th, 2018, my domestic violence relationship took a toll, and I was shot in the face with a 12 gauge shotgun. It left me with the loss of my right eye, 12 bullets in my head, which they actually, there was 18. I'm sorry. They took 12 out, which leaves me with 6 left in my head. I suffer from a traumatic brain injury, smashed sinus cavity, lots of equilibrium issues, depth perception, the loss of my right eye, obviously. It's a struggle, but I've conquered it. I've found ways to maneuver and do things. I also suffer from short-term memory loss. I'm like 10-second Tom. I use Post-its for everything. And I'm an open book. I like to share my story so I can help the next survivor be able to walk away and stand tall and conquer the world.
Wow. That's a long story in a minute and a half for sure. So I want to start. Let's start with those happy times. Well, what I assume was happy. Was your first marriage or relationship? Was that how was that? I know you lost him, but was there trauma in that relationship, or how was that?
In the beginning, it was nice. When we found out I was pregnant with my daughter, he turned into a big, massive alcoholic, and we had our moments of fighting. I've caught a couple black eyes. I've thrown a couple his way. I actually started filing for a divorce back in 2010. And I decided enough was enough. So I took my daughter and we left, and everything was going good. He realized he was a massive alcoholic and decided that he wanted to try to fix things. So we started talking as a couple and tried to co-parent and be better. And a week after we started talking, he got drunk and dove into a shallow pool and became a quadriplegic and passed away 6 months later at the age of 30.
Wow. Wow.
Left me a widow, and I was 27, and our daughter Serena was 5 at the time.
Wow. Wow. Sorry, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. I want to pick a piece. I want to kind of start back because I try to bring awareness to sometimes why we choose the men that we choose or gravitate towards them. Did you suffer with any childhood traumas?
Oh, absolutely. I was the child my parents never wanted. Not only was I the firstborn, but I guess I was the first. I try to call myself the project child because I don't think they had any idea what they were doing. They left me home alone. I have fallen. I've gotten stuck behind refrigerators. I climbed into a medicine cabinet, ate a whole box of X-Lax. Like, the parenting was just not there. I took beatings on at a very young age. Both my parents were massive alcoholics. My father sexually assaulted me quite a few times, starting at the age of 8. Um, Younger than that, my mother used to cheat on my father a lot, very often, to where there were actually men hiding in our closets. Every time my dad would come home from work, and I'd be like, Daddy, someone's in the closet. And so once my father would find out there was a man in the closet, he would leave, which left this strange man, myself, my sister, and my mother in the house. And my mother's boyfriends, after they, got done hanging out with my mom or whatever they did with my mom, they would come into the bedrooms and they would do their thing, and I would be molested numerous times. My mother thought I was the crazy child, that I was too young to know what was going on. I was too young to understand what was happening. I wasn't too young. I knew exactly what was going on. But nobody's going to believe a 5-year-old, 6-year-old.
And they should.
Parts of my trauma that started bottling up at such a young age. And I turned into like a mom because my sister's 18 months younger than me. And I was like, no one's going to touch my little sister at all, ever. So I got up, I made us breakfast every day for school. I got us dressed, I helped with homework, and we walked to school and we walked home every day. And it was a regular Monday through Sunday routine for me.
Now, was there ever a time, you couldn't protect her? Did she, did the same thing ever end up happening to her?
No, it was always me. It was never her. I mean, it got so bad to where, like we were pulling baseball bats out and, anything that we could do to get these people and creeps. And, back in the 80s, and I'm talking like 89, 90, because I was only in kindergarten. And, DIFUS in New Jersey, which is Child Protective Services, they were useless. They were called on my parents numerous times, and we were still with my parents. They are not like they are these days. I can tell you that.
Now, was it like your mom giving them the green light on you, or was it something that was going on?
I don't know. I think it was just that my mom was so heavily wasted from being at the bar all night, which she was bringing in, like, she didn't have a taste. Like, there was just a variety of everything. It was almost like going in the grocery store picking out a bag of chips, and she would pass out, or she'd be too messed up from whatever it was that she was doing with them, and mosey on down the hall to find one of us.
And she never caught a man touching y'all?
Never. That woman could drink an army under the table. Like, it's bad. It was always bad. Always bad.
Did you guys ever tell your dad?
Oh, yeah. And, he drank as much as she did, but he never had the money to take her to court.
But you said he molested you too, right?
Me, yeah, when I was 8 years old. He came in drunk from the bar one night on a weekend that we were with him. And my sister and I took turns. One weekend, one of us would sleep on the couch so we could get the TV all night long, and the other one would sleep in bed with Daddy. Well, it was my turn, my weekend, and yeah, it was really my turn.
So you don't know if he ever did anything to your sister?
No, to this day. According to her, she said no. I mean, I believe her. I don't think she would, okay. Especially once I came out with all my stuff, I don't think she would, hide any of that.
So once your dad started, he kept doing it?
Yeah. Until I got big enough to be like, I will beat you with a bat.
My gosh.
And I outgrew my parents I was in 8th grade. I grew like 18 inches in one summer. I'm almost 6 feet tall. Like, I'm a really tall girl. And I swear I was the milkman's kid because I don't look like either one of my parents. And I did Ancestry.com. And apparently I am my parents' kid. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's Jesus. Wow. It knocks my sock off sometimes because it just seems like every instance of this that we talk about with somebody, it happens more than once, and it's almost like they can smell it on you or something. It's
Oh
and it's
yeah.
like always directed at that one child. Like it's insane to me. So
Yep.
I'm wondering, like, I don't know if it's because I can't see through those lenses, but I just want to know, what is it that they're, you know what I mean? What are they reading on
Right.
you that
Right.
just lets them know
And
they
it's
can do
usually, and it's always the one who winds up growing up and being the one who turns into like He-Man or the Hulk or Superman and Batman. Like we are like nothing can stop us. Like
Mhm.
nothing gets in our way for any
Mhm.
survivor out there,
Right.
whether it just even be mental health. Like there's nothing that gets in our way. At least for me, nothing. I don't let anything get in my way ever.
So, what age were you when the molestation stopped? I mean,
I
period. I know
was
you stood
10.
up.
10.
And even with your mother's abusers, it stopped at 10?
Yeah. Because I started opening up and telling my cousins, and my grandparents were finding out. And I mean, my dad and phone calls were being made. And I guess my grandfather would come over and see my mom's boyfriend or whoever it was and gave him like a forewarning, like, don't go anywhere near my grandkids kind of thing.
Good.
I think there were more eyes being watched on us than there was prior. So,
Did they ever confront your mother? Your
oh,
grandparents?
numerous times. Numerous times. I never knew what a narcissist was until I grew up and learned the definition. I was like, oh, my mom belongs in that dictionary. Like, it's insane. I could never. And I'm a mom of a girl as my first child, and I could never. Mm-mm.
Same.
I would beat the brakes off somebody. One eye, two eyes, one arm, two arms. It doesn't matter. You come near my.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Not
Even a whisper
in
of it,
my
you're not.
world.
Yeah, you don't play
Not
like
my
that.
babies. No
Yeah.
way.
What was your like school life like at the time? Were you know, doing okay with school? Were you
It
showing
was
out
like
in
my
some areas?
escape route. It was I did ROTC in high school,
Hmm.
which is like a mini military, so it kind of got me ready for going in the Navy because I
Hmm.
knew years before what my plan was. And I used it as like my free ticket away from home.
Okay.
But then I
Because
got
we,
so into the ROTC and like really learning about like all the aspects of the military and all the branches, and I was like, "What? Sign me up. Let's go."
yeah,
And
because
it
we
was such an
usually,
experience. I mean, it was my escape from home. Like I also
mhm,
had two jobs growing up while I was in high school doing ROTC. Like I was just doing everything I could to keep busy so I could just graduate and go to boot camp.
mhm. Yeah, because we usually see the reverse when 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 most
Right.
humans come on here, it's you see the behavioral piece of it. So it's good that it's sad, but it's good that it allowed you for determination to move forward and to have a better life.
Right. I'll tell you what, when after I got hurt and everything started settling in and kicking in, that's when all my trauma from my childhood and my teenage years and what happened with the shooting and everything that happened with that, like all that came out within the first 6 months. And I was just like, what the hell took over my body? And I
Mhm.
was like, and I was going to therapy. Like I had actually asked for it before I left the hospital. I was like, I need someone to talk to because I had no family out here where I live in upstate New York.
Right.
And
I
they
had my
deserve
in-laws from my first husband. Yeah, I have my in-laws from my first husband, but they're not mine anymore. They don't, I'm just the mother of their granddaughter. Like, who the hell am I?
Mhm.
Nobody. I had nobody. Like I had my sister who's like my knight in shining armor, but you can only talk on the phone so much.
Mhm.
Like it's not the same interaction connection, which is someone just sitting next to you, even if you're not even talking. It's just like somebody's there. The
Hmm.
phone, it's not the same. And I was just like in a china shop. Like I felt like I was He-Man and I was on It was bad. Like it got scary. Like it's hard because you suffer so much, and in the same time I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to walk around the house with the whole, I only have one eye now. You go from, it's not like losing a hand or a finger. It's like one of your main organ. Like it was hard. It was so hard.
I'm
I can
sure.
only
I
imagine.
still, and it's bad because I have such a twisted sense of humor about it now, because I have worked so many years on learning how to, I don't want to use the cliche words of cope with my feelings, on how to maneuver through my feelings, because I don't want to just work through it, process it, and push it off. I want to be able to feel what's going on, figure out how to work through it so I can use it for next time. Because if it's happened once, it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm. And
And
that's what I
it's
tell
like the
people.
same concept of how do I get myself into this aspect of, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I went through all this as a kid. I'm going through this as an adult. So I was trying to kickstart everything I did when I stuffed all those feelings when I was a kid in the beginning, on how to do
Mm-hmm.
it again as an adult. And that was scary, and what got me worried, because it was like that little kid that got hurt so bad and so much does not want to come out. Like she's been able to maneuver past that and get through all that. And I didn't want to stare all that up. And unfortunately, all of that came out at the same time, because it was like, if I had my mom, I would have someone to help me get through all this. But I didn't have that mom.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's where the whole childhood trauma kept coming back up. And it was
Mm-hmm.
just like, at points, I thought I was reliving all that all over again, and I was getting scared.
Mm-hmm. Because I tell people, I'm like, even like me, we disconnect from our feelings as kids. So we really don't know how to communicate with our feelings and emotions because we're on survival
Right.
mode, right? But as you get older, like where we're at now, we connect, we try to connect with our feelings and emotions and become in tune with them. We understand why we're crying and the feeling of crying, instead of somebody
Right.
touching us and we start crying. Like it's a rebel. So it's, that connection with your feelings is, it's a totally different feeling. Like
Oh, right.
it's
And like,
disconnected.
especially with me, because both of my kids, and it's so hard to say, but my kids got the shit end of the stick big time, because, you know, my daughter lost her father at the age of 5, and my son was 4 when I got shot, and his father went to prison when he was 5. So it's like, my kids, I try to teach them and show them like how I work through my feelings. There's so many different ways on you can do it. So like each day I try to like pinpoint my kids, because as I'm learning, they're learning. So we don't have that domino effect of, oh no, what do I do? I got to stuff everything because I had a rough childhood, because I had trauma, and I don't want my kids to feel like they have to go through what I went through, because all my past trauma come up, because my kids watched me go through it. It's hard. Like, you can't hide that. I don't care who you are. You can't hide that. Sorry. Superman can't hide that.
Right.
And my kids seeing me one day perfectly fine, everything's happy, to seeing me, I have no hair, I'm missing an eye, and mommy can't, like, what's going on? Why does mommy have a big boo-boo? And it's like, how do I teach my kids it's okay to cry and be about your feelings when I can't even explain to them what the hell happened? So it's like, feelings are so involved, especially learn how to process them. When I was in the hospital, because everything that happened the night of the shooting, so what had transpired was Steve and I had gotten into an argument because I had a box full of money, which was literally like everyone for a rainy day, but this was more like if something breaks in the house kind of rainy day. And he was an in the closet heroin addict when I first met him, and he was actually the reason I wound up moving up here to upstate New York, further upstate to where I was when I first met him, because I was tired of dealing with the BS and the fighting and everything and the black eyes. I legit packed my truck in a U-Haul trailer and put it in neutral and left at 3:30 in the morning and never looked back. And I left because of his drug use. He had pulled on my heartstrings, and what happened was he had sent me a video of him sleeping by a dumpster, like, I'm at my lowest. This is me asking for help. So me being the person that I am, because I do have a huge heart, I love to help people if I can. And I figured, here's my chance to help him sober up so he can watch his son grow up. Why not? And everything was good. In the beginning, he was doing the right thing. And then he found that cigar box, and Psycho Steve came out, and he started questioning me about where the money came from and everything else like that. And I was legitimately saving like small stashes of cash, and I worked 2 jobs. So I was the only one bringing money in, paying the bills and everything else. So I knew what I could play with and what I could hide and save and still be able to pay the bills. So we had gotten into an argument, and he had swung and punched me in the face, and he had punched me so hard to where I instantly had leaned over a garbage can, and my military background kicked in automatically because I started getting sick, like I was going to start throwing up. And the first sign of a brain injury is vomiting. I was like, wow, he really hit me hard. Some time goes past, I wake up and I have a rag on my face, and I see Steve running around the house trying to figure out what he was going to do. And I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm looking for the car keys. I have to take you to the hospital. I'm like, you only punched me in the face. Why do I have to go to the hospital? And I didn't bother to look in a mirror. I'm kind of glad I didn't. Right before Steve had actually punched me, he had pulled a 12 gauge double barrel on me. He literally had backed up and had it pointed down on me because I was actually at one point bending down fixing my boots. So he had it pointed down on me to where I actually looked up like this and I saw a barrel of a gun. Now, me being prior military and a mom with children in her house never keeps a loaded gun in her house ever. Never. And but it's still a gun. It's still a scare tactic. So I was not going to try to call his bluff, and I'm so glad I didn't. So after he saw me starting to cry, he had pulled the gun away and went and put it in my bedroom. My adrenaline was so through the roof because the gun was pulled on me that there was no way I was making it out of my house fast enough without him catching me physically. So we had started arguing. He winds up punching me in the face. I wake up after I got sick, and he's looking for car keys and tells me he has to take me to the hospital. So meanwhile, the whole time I have the car keys in my back pocket, and the house keys are attached to the car keys. So everything's in my back pocket. And I go out, I start the car, I sit in the passenger seat, and I'm laying in the back like this with a rag on my face, doing this, giving him directions on how to get me to the hospital. He legitimately drops me off at the front door to the emergency room. And I get out and I walk into the emergency room and I put my elbow on a table like this and said, "Excuse me, I need some help." Next thing I know, I'm in a wheelchair getting wheeled to a gurney. Everybody's freaking out. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? I couldn't understand why everybody was freaking out. I'm like, I just got punched in the face. What's going on? Cops are coming up to me. State troopers are coming up to me. Doctors are asking me. Somebody's cutting my pants off. And I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. This whole time, no one's talking to me. And So they start rushing IVs in me and they're cutting my clothes off and putting gowns and blankets on me. And I see a cop come up to me. He's like, Katie. I said, yes. What happened? I said, Steve punched me in the face. What is going on? He's like, well, you're being life flighted to Albany Medical Center. I said, what? Over a punch to the face? And I'm like, well, I'm still walking. I still feel all my limbs. So it's not like my brain's hanging out. I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on. So we get in an ambulance and we get in the helicopter. Now, being the no filter, sarcastic Jersey girl that I am, I actually asked for a window seat in the helicopter because I told them I was Navy and not Army. And she didn't like my joke very much. So the next thing I know, I started getting very sleepy and I was like, okay, somebody's putting me in a coma or they're just giving me heavy pain meds. Next thing I know, I wake up, it's Tuesday. Steve shot me on a Saturday. So I wake up and I see that I'm in the hospital and I have tubes everywhere and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, why I'm tubed up. There's machines everywhere and trying to figure out why I'm in the hospital and why it's Tuesday. Where did Sunday and Monday go? And I remember I started taking the tubes out of my throat. I started extubating myself. And all the alarms were going off and everybody was going crazy and frantic. And I wouldn't stop taking the tubes out. And the only reason I knew how to take them out is because when my husband was a quadriplegic, he had a trach. So I knew everything about the respirator machine because my husband was on one. Excuse me. So I kept taking the tubes out, and because I had taken them out so fast, I had caused myself to get sick all over myself, but the tubes were out. So I actually felt like I could get a fresh breath air. Like I felt free for a second. And I remember making like a sign for like a piece of paper and a pen. And I remember writing down my big brother Mike's name and his phone number. And the next day he actually came to my hospital room in the ICU unit and we were talking and I was trying to figure out why I was still in the hospital. And he had told me that Steve had shot me. And I was like, no, he didn't. We got into a fist fight. I said, he hit me, I hit him, and then he hit back. I said, he just landed a good shot. And he said, no, Katie, he really shot you. And he had to pull up the newspaper article for me to actually believe the fact that the man who said he loved me shot me with my own gun in my kitchen. Now, the part that threw me for a loop, which I didn't find out right away, was he physically shot me in the side of the head when I was unconscious from puking in the garbage can after he punched me in the face. So a couple days go by in ICU and I'm just stuck in ICU. I'm stuck in a hospital. I'm miserable, wanting to get out. Couldn't see my kids. I had no visitors. No one was coming to see me. And so the plastic surgery team came in on a Thursday. It was 2 days after I woke up. And they were teaching me how to bandage my wounds on my head. And so they have like this huge tray table with like gauze and all this other stuff and ointments and things that have to go on my face and on my head. And so they have a mirror there and my head was literally from here back was all gauze. So I kind of looked like I had a Q-tip as a head. And so we start unwrapping the bandages, and that's when I found out that I had no eye. And I physically took the mirror, and I remember throwing it across my ICU room. And I threw a fit because nobody told me that I lost my eye or the fact that they shaved all my hair off. And I had hair past my butt. I had really nice hair. And yeah, so I was beyond angry, beyond not just pissed off at the hospital, but the fact that no one had the audacity from the hospital, not even my entire surgery team or a case manager or a counselor or a domestic violence advocate or anybody, nobody told me that I lost my eye because I was shot in the face with a 12 gauge.
And they probably were trying to protect you as well because of the traumatic situation. That's probably why the state trooper kept questioning you. But I can only imagine your state of mind at that time or what you were saying at the time. Sometimes we don't remember every detail, right? It could have, and I'm not just saying been a protection um, for you, but I want to take a quick break and then we're going to let Sid will the next question back in when we come back in. That's why it is very important for those because we do see a lot of folks with GoFundMe and no life insurance, and a lot of times we put the materialistic piece before the protective piece. And the protective piece is having life insurance to make sure that you are covered just in case anything happens, because we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't know what a
Right.
second may bring. We just don't know. So I'm going to take a quick 30-second break and then we're going to come right back in. And Katie, I just want to tell you, thank you for sharing your testimony.
Anytime.
If y'all haven't been tuning in, we have Katie. She went through a domestic situation where she was shot in her eye with a 12 gauge. So I hope many of you are tuning in and listening. Domestic violence is real. So it's not a joke. It's not a game. When you see mental issues or issues that 9 times out of 10 is not going to change, it doesn't matter what the help that the person gets. If not, they're not dealing with their traumas deeply, then you're putting your life in danger. Sid, sorry, come on, let's pull it back in.
No, you're fine. So at that point, what comes of your significant other at that time? Was he found? Were they still investigating at that time? Once you discover what actually happened to you?
Actually, the day I found out I had no eye, I also within the hour had an investigator getting ready to come sit down and talk to me, which perfect timing because I had a whole lot of questions at that point. Um, when he had reiterated what my cousin said and told me about the shot and what happened and everything else like that, I had to stop and ask, like, what happened? Like, what is he arrested for? Like, where is he? What's going on? Like, where's my car? Like, I had so many questions. Like, why did he do this? Did he say? Like, what was his interview like? Like, what kind of questions did you ask him? And the only thing that they were able to tell me was he was arrested for assault charges because they had to arrest him under assault charges to get him in jail that night. He had ran through, kind of gave me the rundown, and when I had asked him what happened exactly after the punch, obviously, because once I started throwing up, I had no recollection of what happened from the second I remember seeing what was in the garbage can to the second I woke up and was like, oh, we're going to the hospital kind of thing. And which was weird because Steve can't drive for anything. Like, he shouldn't be allowed to walk, talk, or chew bubblegum all at the same time. And I couldn't believe that I didn't take over and actually try to drive myself to the hospital because I legit had no idea how bad my face was, nor did I know at that moment that I got shot. So I just wanted to know, it was more like, why, of all people in the world, did you choose at that moment in time to shoot me, of all people? Like, I just let you back in your son's life. What? It wasn't even anger. It was like pure confusion. Like, what happened? And
His
then the
addiction.
fact that I don't know what happened to me Sunday and Monday was even more confusion, even though I knew I was in ICU, I was in the hospital, I was safe. Obviously, they kept me alive. But like, I don't know what happened after, like, I think it was 9:12 we got in the helicopter. I was able to find out, or something like that, on a Saturday night, and I woke up at Tuesday afternoon. Like, what? And then come to find out, it was confusion. It wasn't even anger and hatred yet. It was like, what? He did what? Like, this can't be happening. Of all people, me.
Um, did so after he had a drug addiction. So I just
Mhm.
want to know, just to be transparent, because a lot of folks, even though he does, they will pick the drugs still, even after they to cope with the what he did. Did he spend all the money?
Um, Somehow he got his hands on it, because when they did the investigation, there should have been about $5,200, and they said there's about 21. And the sick part is the 2100 that they found on my kitchen counter was covered in my blood. So
That's why he
when do
didn't
you
touch it.
when are you going to clean it and give it back to me, is my question. Like,
Yeah, I'm wondering if he
what is
could
it, just
even
going to
use
sit
it.
there?
Right. Right. I get.
I mean, and it sounds crazy because they took so many things out of my house that really had nothing to do with this.
My
And
God.
it's not like CSI when you see them put like those little plastic things down that are numbered. No, out here they use Sharpie and they circle it.
Yeah.
So I had Sharpie all over. Like, I had to go back in that house the day after I got discharged from the hospital, and it was insane. Like, I thought they cleaned things up like that before the people moved back in their house.
They
No.
should.
No.
How long
Yeah,
did you stay?
totally.
How long did you
I
stay
was
there?
in the hospital for a total of 10 days. I was in ICU for 6 and a regular room for 4. Once they took all the tubes out of me and gave me a chance to try to get up and move, because I'm one of those people that I never sit still. And everything that I went through with my husband for the 6 months that he went through everything with him, like, hospitals were the last place that you ever see me. I had to live in one for so long with him. Like, it's not, I don't like it. It's scary to me. And the fact that I was the patient this time. And so my cousin, who's like my big brother, actually came back up from Jersey, and he bought me a bathrobe with some big slippers that had soles. So he would help me take walks around the nurses' station, and each lap around the nurses' station was a quarter mile. So I would do 2 laps after lunch and 2 laps after dinner. Once I felt strong enough to, like, actually get up and try to move, I was hustling. Like, my blind self was walking down the aisle, like, let's go. Like, I wanted to get out of there. I couldn't do it anymore.
I like how you make humor out of it.
Oh, I have to.
That's a very strong trait.
I can now. In the beginning, I couldn't. In the beginning, it was hard because, and I think it took my kids to crack a joke before I was like, oh, I can run with this now. And I do. I won't lie. I have a very twisted sense of humor about it. Like, my TikToks are epic with my eye
They are.
jokes.
They are.
They
They are.
are hilarious.
Oh, and we didn't put your TikTok on here. Let's add that so folks will know your
It
TikTok.
yeah. I'm comical. It's very funny. And you know what? It helps other people not feel uncomfortable being around me because I look different. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was a big thing. And it's still now. Like I won't sugarcoat it. I still live in the town that I got shot in, and it's horrible. Like I'm known as that girl, as you know, and in the beginning it was really hard because they were like, oh, there she goes. And I'm like, really?
Right.
Like, come on. Why don't you give me a pat on the back and be like, I hope you have a good day?
Right.
Because when these people, like, when I see them, like, I let whatever's going to roll off my tongue roll off because I'm going to make you more uncomfortable than you think you're making me. And it's hard because, especially when I have my kids with me, my daughter, when she was in middle school, when it first happened, they used to call me Bullet Brain. And she used to and I used to go down to that school. And it was hard because I used to cook at their schools. That was one of my jobs I had before I got hurt.
Kids are horrible.
And they are.
They
But
are.
now, like my son, like for instance, the first Halloween I lost my eye. And I said to him, I was like, well, what should mommy, dress up like? He's like, you should be a pirate because your
Pirate.
eye.
I was gonna say
I
a
was the
pirate.
best pirate that Halloween. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I have a
And my son,
question.
like, when I go get my eyebrows done, because now I have my daughter do them, like, he'll make an
Mm-hmm.
eyebrow joke. He's like, well, at least you only have to sit there for one. And it's a very valid point, though. But he's 8, and, like, he gets it. Like, he feels comfortable being around me. And, because in the beginning, he's like, you look like a robot.
Mhm.
So in the beginning, I'm like, well, what kind of fake eye can I get to make my kids feel comfortable? And then I was like, let's see what if I can get a Terminator helmet or something made.
Mhm.
Like anything to help them. And well, they don't make anything like that. So I started doing my own thing.
I love it. Sid has
I,
a good
I
question.
do have a question. So when you were explaining, what was kind of going through your mind once you, discover what was going on and, you being confused about everything, did you ever get those questions answered by him? Were you ever able to ask him directly or even, even in the trial, maybe figure that out, what his reasoning
No,
was?
because I'll tell you what, in the state of New York, whether you are the victim or the survivor at that moment, however they like to label us, because I like to label myself as the survivor. I'm not a victim.
Mhm.
I'm a victim at that moment. You physically strike me or hurt me. Yes. But after that, I wake up and I get up and I take over the world. I'm a survivor.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, I'm still breathing. So I'm the one who got to survive in the long run.
Mhm.
So at his sentencing, and even actually, let me skip to the head. So me being the survivor, because I also had to testify, I didn't get to watch any of it. None of it, except for the day I had to testify. And apparently that is legal reasons, because if I had to testify again after I heard something and I'm like, well, maybe that did happen. And then my answers, like, I get where they're coming from, but I think it's horrible because now that the case is over, especially now, like, I know I'm entitled to look at all the pictures. Like, I haven't got to see everything from what happened. I was able to see in the beginning the actual one of the sections in my kitchen where about 40 something pellets from the shotgun shell went. And I could actually see the pictures with the trajectory rods on which way they came out from the cabinets and stuff like that. And I got to see a very blurred black and white picture of my face, like 90% of it covered in gauze before I went into my first major surgery. But I never got to hear anything on anybody else's other side, like their version of like what happened with him. All I know with him was he showed absolutely no remorse. He showed no apology. The only thing he said in his statement was, our lives have changed forever. He told one of the news channels that they should hook me up to a lie detector test. And that the judge called him a coward, but he said nothing. Like, my victim impact statement was 9 pages long.
He's sick. Something must have definitely happened to him in childhood.
Yeah.
You know anything about his childhood history?
He was a family that grew up in the Bronx, very highly connected to this one, to that one, to this one, to this one. They have a guy for this, they have a guy for that kind of thing. And I mean, I even went through trouble with his family after the first trial started, right before I testified.
So that I'm too familiar with it. So trust me, I understand. It's like, shit, he shot you. How can you defend his bullshit? Like,
right. His one brother actually called and offered to send me and the kids on a cruise and on a vacation and give me all kinds of money if I didn't show up to testify. So they went all the way down to find him and arrested him all the way out here in Saratoga, and he got charged for tampering with a witness. And just to prove to you how bad the justice system is, the brother that got tampering with a witness, I got a longer restraining order on him than I did the man who actually shot me. That's how twisted the system is. What? Regardless whether he's in prison for how long or how not long, that should be a lifelong restraining order, and it's not.
No, it's not. You have to go back after the first year, and then once you go back after the first year, then they may grant you 5 or a lifetime. Yeah. So yeah, you have to keep.
And my 5-year anniversary from all this is on April 7th. It's been 5 years.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Oh my gosh. I know it still seems like I couldn't imagine I don't even know if you want to call them memories. Right. Gosh.
And it's weird because, like, I can look at myself now and, like, and this is where I would crack a joke, be like, you know, the first couple weeks, it's one of those things, like, seriously, like, if you try to, like, walk around the house like this because you've never done it or never had, like, eye surgery, you'd be so mad at yourself for how many times you walk into a wall. But the problem is mine's never going to fix itself. So it was either I suck up the fact that I keep walking into walls, or I try to find a way to figure out how to not do it. Because with the brain injury, you know, there's a lot of things that I can't do. Like, I can't swim underwater anymore. I can't blow my nose. I can't go on an airplane because there's so much pressure issues still with my skull. It's like, you know how hard it is to not blow your nose?
I know. I would forget.
5 years.
I would forget. I probably would have been dead and gone by now from blowing my damn nose because I forgot.
Yeah, I'm always blowing my nose. Like, if it's in there, I gotta blow my nose. So.
And it's crazy because, and it's usually they say when you lose one of your 6 senses, another one increases. So losing an eye, I'm like, okay, maybe something else will kick into high gear. No, because of all the damage on the right side of my face, I have no sinus cavity on the right side. So I no longer have a sense of smell or a sense of taste. Wow. So nothing tastes like it used to anymore. So the only 2 things that I drink are ginger ale and cranberry juice because they're the only 2 things that taste normal to me.
So if someone gave you some nasty food, you wouldn't even know?
Not a clue. Like, I love cucumbers. They taste like I'm eating mud pies. I love Pepsi. It tastes like Dawn dish soap smells. Like, it's bad.
Wow.
That's
like going to a restaurant, I don't even bother. For what? I don't know if it's good or not.
I have a question. Did any, and I'm asking because my answer is no to this. So no, but did anyone in his family ever check on you, make sure that you were okay, asked about you, anything?
The only thing that happened was the day we were in court, whether we were going to get a guilty or not guilty, his mother caught my attention. I turned and looked around and she waved at me. And that was it. That was it. That's all I got.
What?
And then they wanted to keep sending Christmas gifts and holiday gifts for the kids. And I refused to accept them.
I don't want that. I don't want nothing to do with y'all. Like, ew. I definitely wouldn't. Oh, gosh.
Your son almost took my life. He took my eye. He took everything. Where is the compassion? Like, I heavily talk on this. Like, family.
They don't even care about our son. Like, they don't write letters or call or ask about Angelo, our son. They don't know.
And that's also my question, because I always want to know, with people that are really, like, really, really, really single mothers out here or single parents out here, what happened to your kids in them 10 days? Like, who was taking care of them?
They were actually, the way that the year it happened, it was actually, do you remember the year that April or Easter fell on April Fool's Day that year?
Briefly recall, yeah.
It was April Fool's Day fell on Easter that year. So because of that week, the kids were actually at my mom's in Pennsylvania visiting them for the week that they were off of school.
Wow.
So now, mind you, him and I just had a whole week of no kids. Everything was calm, cool, and collective. I was going to work, coming home, we're having dinner, hanging out, watching movies, doing what couples do, enjoying it. Like, legitimately, for the first time, I felt normalcy. And then the day before we were supposed to meet my stepdad to bring the kids back, he does this to me. So my kids actually had to stay in Pennsylvania for the remainder of that school year because my daughter was in school. So I didn't get to see the kids home again until April, May. It was June 26th or 7th of 2018. So I got them back like 2.5 months later. And they were scared.
I'm sure.
And they probably needed that time. I think it's good because I can only imagine if they would have seen you from the beginning.
And it was like one of those things. It was like I felt like they could help me feel whole again. Like I just wanted someone to just let me hold you or hold me or just give me a hug or something.
I mean, realistically, even though
I was running around the house trying to do this and make dinner, and I was like,
even though you were up, were you really still, in a good enough capacity to, you think, actually had taken care of them?
I thought I was, but I got my butt kicked.
I'm sure.
I won't even deny it.
You needed that time too.
It sounded like
I got my ass kicked.
Yeah, it sounded like
every mom duty known to man.
Yeah,
and being the mom, we got to be Superman. We got to be strong. We got to let the kids know that it's okay when you fall down and get hurt. And I'm sitting here thinking, who the hell am I kidding? I just got shot in the face.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I'm still walking around like it's just a Band-Aid. Like it wasn't clicking.
Yeah.
It was like, I got to teach these kids, like, don't worry about getting knocked down. And I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. And it also sounds like
I felt like
yeah, but it also sounds like he was more comfortable with the kids gone. Like it was almost, it sounds like your son was a control piece to keep y'all together, because as soon as the kids come back, he starts acting out. But do you still think he had an underlying heroin addiction moving, even though
he had to have, because I was told when they searched the house, they found a bunch of paraphernalia and everything that goes along with it underneath one of my kitchen vents inside my floor. Now, when I first met him and I first thought I saw what someone does and everything with heroin, like, I'm drug stupid. I don't know. I've never done them. So I had no idea. I actually legitimately had to research it. I'm like, I know people do it this way and they can do it this way. And I'm like, but what does it look like? What am I looking for? Like, I had no idea what kind of even body movements to look for. I was completely confused. I mean, he did a really good job hiding it, or I was just that stupid to not notice.
Was he shooting? You said he was on heroin, right? So was he
Mhm.
shooting needles?
Mhm.
You didn't see no track marks anywhere?
No, because the first 6 months when I figured it out, it was wintertime. He was always clothed.
Mm.
And he used to drive me crazy, so our sex life was out the window. And then, when I started finding things and putting two and two together, we had gone camping one year and he's in flip flops. I'm like, son of a bitch. I figured it out. And it just,
His feet were swollen, I'm
I
assuming.
mean, I'm talking like elephant. Wow. And then it all came together, and I'm like, wow,
He's
I
shooting in his
am
feet.
that dumb.
Yeah, he's
Like, I
shooting.
was so mad at myself, and I'm like, what? But you don't think about, where could, because I didn't know people. I just don't even know how people do it now. I couldn't do it.
Well, they shoot. I mean, heroin addict will shoot anywhere under their
I don't
eyelids.
even like giving myself my injections for my migraine medicine, and it's like an EpiPen, and it freaks me out.
Mm-hmm.
But I have like 80 tattoos. It's not the same though.
I'm the same way too. I don't like needles, but I have a ton of tattoos.
Right.
It's just a matter of control. You know it's coming. It's your choice. Technically
Uh-huh.
artistry, but
Right.
them the penetration needles just
Right.
It's different. It's a stress reliever, like
yeah,
a tattoo.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I understand. I'm not super scared of needles, but I could do without them if I could.
And
For
it's
sure.
crazy because like I had to go through because I after a long 5-year battle, I finally have the first surgery coming up to start the reconstruction. Now, with what was completely damaged in my face is he completely shattered the entire top part of my eye socket. There's a chunk on the end down here missing, my sinus cavity here and up here, and my frontal lobe and prefrontal lobe damage of my brain. So what they have to do this first surgery is they're going to put something that looks like a whoopee cushion right here in my forehead so we can stretch the skin out so there's enough skin movement so they can do the replacement of the eye socket. And once they replace the eye socket, then I can get my prosthetic, because prosthetic eyes aren't made like what you would think. It's not like a glass ball you just pop in and out.
I was gonna say
I
it's the
thought
glass.
they still made I thought they still made them that way because you found out that the whole eye thing, and I'm like, I asked for a black one with a skull hand giving it the Jersey bird. I wanted a big one that went like this.
So is the eye just gonna
I
sit,
did. I
or is
wanted a black eye with
Mhm.
a white skull hand doing this. That
I
was the
What they say,
prosthetic eye I wanted.
no, you
And
can't
they
do
said
that.
no.
So I have a question. So when they put the eye in, is it gonna just sit? Does it move? I just
Yeah,
want people
what
to
it is because I still had some ligaments and muscles that weren't completely destroyed, what they do with a prosthetic is exactly how it sounds. There is a marble that it gets attached to what nerves, muscles, and tendons you have left. And a prosthetic looks like this, and it's actually in the shape of what looks like a giant contact lens. So it's like the size of a 50-cent piece versus a regular contact lens, which is like this big. And you literally put it in the same kind of way, and it just sits on top of the marble. But because the marble has been attached to what I have left as far as muscles, nerves, and tendons, it's going to move when this one moves.
Okay.
So I'll look normal. It's just they both won't blink.
Okay. And so I guess they're gonna do some plastic surgery as well.
Yeah.
Is that what happens? Okay.
Yep, because we did try to do skin grafts a month after the original surgery to see what kind of eyelid they could build me left for the top part. But they took a bunch of skin from my leg and it didn't take. So literally when the skin just scabbed over, they ripped it off.
Ooh.
So it was like a waste of anesthesia, surgery, and healings for you to just rip a scab completely off my face.
My God.
And that was May of 2018. And this is now the first surgery for the first and final stages. I mean, it's going to be hard because I have to go back to the hospital every week so they can maintain the air in this whoopee cushion looking thing. So it keeps stretching the skin.
Okay. So how long does it
Absolutely.
take to heal after you do the
After
surgery?
this, they said 16 weeks.
Okay. So um your surgery is what day is
March
your surgery?
15th.
Huh?
March 15th.
March 15th. So this is a pre-record will be airing April. So Katie was um allowed us to pre-record her early before the surgery so that we could get this out because we wouldn't have been able to capture her after the surgery due to the healing process. So we are going to have Katie back in a few months after she goes through the healing piece. We want to check up and follow up on her so we can give you a transparency of the next steps after 5 years. So it's definitely
Absolutely.
an honor.
Yes.
So we're actually at time. So I'm gonna let after the plugs, I just want you, can you give the audience really quick, maybe advice, two things on a positive way of healing, some techniques to help them for someone that's going through what you have been through or a similar situation, just something positive on the healing piece of it.
I'll tell you what, the biggest thing for me was actually in my huge healing stage was talking about my story, telling other people what I've gone through in domestic violence, trauma with my parents, everything, mental health aspects, PTSD. Open your mouth, because if you don't open your mouth and tell someone that something's either bothering you or that you're excited about something, whether it's good or bad, it's going to stay bottled up and it's just going to sit there and it's going to rest in your gut and you're not going to be able to enjoy that moment or feel proud and talk about something you've gone through and look at it and be like, I went through that. Look at that. And cherish those moments. Don't take anything for granted. Keep moving forward. Don't let anything knock you down. And if it does knock you down, get back up and tell them you hit like a bitch. Because that's what I do every morning when I get out of bed. I go, you hit like a bitch, and I make my coffee. And it works. It's a positive way to start your morning with a self-affirmation. It is, that's it. That's it.
It sounds good to me. I like that advice. I like that advice.
Right. Put
Now,
your 2 feet
Katie,
on the floor and be like, you hit like a bitch.
exactly. Now, Katie, we're at the point where we call shameless plugs. So anything that you have going on, if there is ways that our viewers could possibly help with any of the medical bills, anything you have set up, interviews, books, anything that you want traffic to be drawn to, please give us that. Or if anybody has any questions or, needs just to speak to you or advice after hearing your story tonight, you can direct them where they can go. So you see your scroll across the bottom of the screen. Just let everybody know how they can contact you and what you got going on.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions or wants to ask any details, you can find me on Facebook at Katie Kernahan. My Instagram is Navy Girl 23. My TikTok is Navy Girl AS 39. And my email is navygirlas39@gmail.com. And I'm always up for talking and sharing my story, so feel free.
Yes. And then so Katie is in our The Good Fight chat group. So come follow us on the Good Fight chat group. I'm going to run it. She was one of our monthly life experiences. She has a phenomenal testimony. So you can read about it there. Katie is very active in the group. We appreciate you. Thank you. It's a blessing, a God's blessing, to know you. I feel like I've known you for a long time because we're always
Right.
right? And you're a very big supporter of the Good Fight, and an extension of the Good Fight is Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. So Sid and I have been waiting for you. So yeah, definitely. And thank you for coming on to Unfiltered Unspoken and being a
Thanks for
guest.
having me.
My pleasure. So we're gonna go ahead and close it out. Thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken. We hope that Katie's testimony has touched many of you. And for those that are going through domestic violence situations, please pay attention. And I'm going to say this because Katie was shot and I was stabbed, and we both could have lost our lives. But God put us here as warriors to tell our testimonies, to help as many folks as we can through the connections of our life experiences, to share with you in hopes that you will get out of the domestic situation. If you're going through childhood traumas, we know, we feel your hurt and pain. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. A lot of folks bottle it up. And as you heard Katie say, it all came out when she was in a hospital and she got shot. Her childhood traumas, from molestation to abuse, everything came out. Katie has been in survival mode since a child into her adulthood. And as I always say, look at it. The men that she faced was a resemblance of the men that she watched growing up, and the men that her mother brought into and out of the household. So we hope that you learned something. We hope that this is going to help someone, and as long as it helps one person, our mission is not complete, but it is going to go further. It's doing things how we want it to be done, and that's touching you and helping you through your traumas. So thank you for tuning in to Unfiltered Unspoken, and of course, we're going to see you again, and we're going to continue to share these life experiences. We're not going to stop. We're going to keep going. So you're going to see me and Sid's face a whole lot. Thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed day.